Let's see. How about now? Can you got me now? Says I got audio, but I don't mean nothing. Let me drop another message in here. Oh, got audio now. All right, cool. That's what I needed. I appreciate it. It's the humidity, man. You're talking about Memphis there, because well, maybe not Memphis, but the area anyway. Sorry that video's so crappy. I guess I'm gonna have to get another camera. That's kind of a cheap camera that I use for work-related stuff, whatever. But I guess I didn't realize how terrible it was. Oh, Mississippi. All right. Well, I don't need to tell you nothing then. You already know what time it is. So, rain rolled through again here today. So, unfortunately, we're going to deal with it tomorrow. So, it's actually kind of humid right now, but I guess that's the way it goes. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I guess we'll get started. Just wanted to catch up on a couple of things, and then I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I've gotten here in the last couple weeks or so. I was going to do some separate videos on this, but some of these topics I've already covered, and I just wanted to talk about them real quickly in case those folks may show up or whatever online. But first things first, I guess there's obviously no video tomorrow. I'm doing this live stream today. The video that I was going to do tomorrow, I'm going to have to push off till next week. I've got a couple of them that I've started shooting, but I haven't really gotten that far on. It's crazy how that all works. I'm still kind of learning it really too. So, that's always kind of a little bit of a weird deal to kind of figure all that stuff out. But anyway, I should have both of those done here pretty quickly. So next week will be either another video on step-up springs or some rebuild kit stuff that I'm looking at, or I was looking at. I had a couple of questions about what rebuild kit should you use for a Holly. So we'll be covering some Holly stuff in a couple of weeks. And then in the next couple of months, as soon as I get that damn GMC truck done and running, there's going to be a lot of content on that. I guess I can kind of cover a little bit of that. We're going to do some, a lot of on engine tuning, but because I haven't done a lot of that, and the reason being, and I guess I've talked a little bit about this before, is the reason why I don't do video on customers' vehicles is I don't think it's fair for one to use their vehicle for me to push out, YouTube videos and content, and I don't want to go through all the rigmarole of asking and the legal things that could come from it. I've having other content creators say that they've run into trouble with that, and I don't want to deal with it. I just want to get somebody's vehicle running, and that's it. So really, I'm kind of limited to my two vehicles, the GMC and then the 67 Chevelle. Hopefully, here in the next week or two, that GMC truck has been fighting me like crazy. TV cable, had problems with that, had to take transmission back out. That cost me a couple of days. I was gone for almost a full week traveling and kind of lost out on some time, but just excuses, I guess, but is what it is. So, let's see. I'm trying to think of what else I was going to talk about before I got into the tech stuff. I should probably start writing this stuff down like a professional YouTuber and, follow a script or something. But literally, live stream videos, whatever, all this crap is just off the top of my head. I don't really write anything down, or sometimes I'll follow a really rough outline, but give you a little insight behind the screen, I guess, that I just spit it out as it comes and tell you what I think you need to know, and a lot of times I forget some stuff, so I should probably start doing that, but whatever. You guys haven't complained too much, so but I have missed some stuff, and I don't want you watching, 3 different videos on the same topic. That's the reason why we're going to do another step-up spring video, is when I did the springs and squirters video, a year or so ago maybe, I forgot some stuff that I wanted to talk about. But, neither here nor there. We'll get all that sorted out. Um, how to adjust quadrijet gas mixture? Yeah, that's a good one for sure. The trouble is right now, and that's more possible, I guess, on the GMC because I have a quadrijet that's off like a 70 or 72 C10 that should work on that pretty good. I may need to richen it up a little bit, but I'll think about that. I hadn't really considered doing a quadrijet tuning video, but at some point I had thought about doing it, but it's a little bit more complicated process. But I think that'll be a lot easier showing it with an O2 sensor, and unfortunately, that doesn't make a lot of folks happy because they just either they don't have one, don't want to use one, whatever. But I'll scribble that one down for sure, Renee, to do something on a QJet. Muckroad Loggers, what's up, man? You got some pretty interesting content on that channel of yours. I kind of like it, but it's good entertainment, so I appreciate that. But fire away your question. I guess that's everything in the comments. Let me take a quick look here. All right. Let's see. A couple of things here I want to talk about really quickly. I know it's not anything, crazy or anything, but I do want to mention a couple of different channels. They're good, become really good friends, and I want to see, would like to see them, get a few more followers and some folks watching them. One of them is Slant 6 Daily. I replaced the sticker over here on that toolbox. It's Slant 6 Daily is the name of the channel, but that guy's a local engineer. I've met him quite a few times, talked to him quite a few times. We've been to the track together. Super, super nice guy. He does a AHRA tech deal every Wednesday night. I'll leave some links down in the description to that. But you want to talk to somebody that's really smart about stuff, Shane, who runs that channel, is certainly on top of it. He's got a Slant 6 that is kind of his cruiser, whatever. He's got a throttle body EFI on there now. He added an Edelbrock carburetor on there. He's going to try a multi-port fuel injection setup on there. That's really cool because he's piecing it all together on his own with a bunch of fast components. And it's kind of cool to watch. I think he was going with a programmable ECU for it here next. So just kind of cool watching it, how he's coming together with that. But that's some really cool content. And then I think he's building a Gen 2 Hemi, or maybe it's a 440 that he's building for a drag car for something that I'm kind of ashamed that I don't know much about, but that's the No Name Nationals. I'm going to play dumb here. I guess I don't watch enough YouTube, which I think I watch a ton of it. And I didn't know anything about it. So I guess it's been going on or went on last year sometime, September, October maybe. They raced, but it's a pretty cool race. It's not too far from here up in Sikeston, Missouri, which is about a 3-4 hour drive for me maybe. But maybe I'll swing up there for that and kind of hang around. I know he's going up there. He's going to try to go up there with a drag car instead of his Slant 6 Dart. But anyway, check them out. Slant 6 Daily, I believe is the name of the channel. But you'll find it. Like I said, I'll leave a description down below. The other one we talked about quite a bit, and that's Riley's Rebuilds. Obviously, I've had that sticker up there for quite a while. Unless you're living under a rock, you've heard about Riley and those girls down in Florida rebuilding Edelbrock carburetors. I've gotten to be really, really good friends with Riley and her dad. Helped him with some tech question stuff, but her dad's pretty spot on, kind of a cool dude. But that channel is one for sure. They were just on All Girls Garage, or Riley was on All Girls Garage a week or two ago, something like that. So if you check that episode out, she really did a good job. She's a 17-year-old girl. Dude, when I was 17, I could work on some of this stuff, but I was getting yelled at by my dad half the time trying to get it figured out. But Riley's Rebuilds is definitely one. Give those folks go give Riley and their social media stuff look. Like I said, I'll link all this stuff in the description later. But really good folks, really good friends, and I'd like to see both of them kind of grow their YouTube channel. And it's good content, it's good fun. Riley's is very wholesome and just kind of cool because, hey, I'm an old fart and old hot rod guy, and it's really cool to see a bunch of young girls that actually can rebuild a carburetor, but they know what they're doing it, and they're actually starting to do tuning videos on it. I couldn't be more stoked about that. That just warms my heart over big time. So definitely check both those channels out. So let me look here in the comments over here. Bought a new AVS2, slapped it on without making any adjustments. Vacuum is running, all I do is set the idle knob and should I fiddle with it maybe? Yeah, so they're Mr. Muck Road loggers. Yes, I would, because here's the thing. With any carburetor, if you bolt it on and it runs good, and it's it feels like it's got good throttle response and everything's clicking right along, you think, wow, this is awesome. It worked great right out of the box. All I did was set the idle mixture, and that was it. There's always more to look at there. AVS2, you didn't say what size, so I'm going to assume that it's probably a 650. If it's an 800, it's a little bit different. But one of the first things I do, because it doesn't cost you anything, is change the accelerator pump. The 650 will be in that middle hole. I guess you can kind of see that. Yeah, sort of. So the 650 will be in the middle hole. Go ahead and move that up to the top hole and see if it does any better on the transition from kind of just cruising down the road to jamming right into the throttle hard. Does it help the pickup any? Does it help you, get a little bit more aggressive into the power range of the cam and all that? If it does, then you know that adding a little bit more fuel is kind of the right way to go. If it doesn't, if it makes it worse, then go back to that middle hole, and then you can kind of decide what you want to do from there. Now, a lot of seat of the pants tuning is a little bit different, and a lot of times what we do is we'll do a quick read on the plugs, and that's another video coming up here. Well, it's going to be a few months down the road, but actually using a spark plug reader, not by pulling a spark plug out of a hole. I don't think I have a spark plug here, but pulling a plug out of the hole and looking at the thing going, oh, it's black as hell, it must be rich. Well, probably, but you don't know why it's rich, or where it's running rich at. And using an actual spark plug reader, they're a little bit expensive, I think. I can't remember. I've had one for, I don't know, quite a few years. I guess we'll talk about that. But pull the plugs. Pull a couple of plugs and see if it's if it's really sooty and black and nasty, or if it's a nice clean tan color. Then you're probably pretty close. The 650 carburetors are pretty closely calibrated to a 350-ish cubic inch engine, pretty mild cam, 222, 224, and a 228 maybe intake exhaust is usually generally in that range, and that carburetor will usually run pretty good out of the box, but you can always kind of play around with it a little bit and see if it you can get it to run better. But if you don't want to buy a calibration kit, you don't have to, but certainly it's kind of a cool thing to do. But do the accelerator pump trick. That doesn't cost you a dime. You can do it really quickly, and if it runs a little bit better, if it runs worse, then you're pretty close on being dialed in. And heck, it could be really close right out of the box, and a little bit of fiddling might not do much to it. So I hope that answered your question. Mr. John Weaver, I always appreciate you stopping by, sir. Thank you. Run a Petromix flamethrower distributor, 68 396 Camaro. Speaking of 68 Camaros, sorry, I didn't read me, on my Instagram page, and I'm going to put it on YouTube, in my Facebook group here when I'm done with this live stream. But there was a really nice 68 Camaro at the local high school car show that I went to this morning. Anyway, just cool. Beautiful silver car. Super nice guy, the owner. I think he won classic car first prize, so it's a beautiful car. But anyway, sorry, I saw a 68 Camaro, and I just happened to spend a little bit of time staring at one this morning. Seems to work with opinion on distributor. GMC, yeah. Appreciate that. Let let me see how I can say this delicately. 20 years ago, I would have told you to huck that Pertronics distributor about as far as you can go. Reason being is Pertronics at the time was kind of a knockoff of the big guy in the room, MSD. When MSD sold to Holley, they got rid of a lot of the staff that had been there for 20, 30, 40 years. It was crazy what they did. The guy running Pertronics now, his name is Russell Stevens. He had been at MSD for 30, 35 years, something like that. I'm kind of guessing there. And he went to go work for Pertronics not long after that. And I know that he has made a lot of changes to that brand. Personally, I haven't used any of it because I've got a lot of fast components that, because they're local to me, I was able to get them very inexpensively. And so it made it a little bit easier for me to do it. But I will try a Pertronics distributor down the road. Again, 20 years ago, I told you to huck it in the ocean. Today, I think I'd give it a shot. And it's all due to Russell and his desire to put out a really quality ignition system. So I would have no problems giving it a shot. And I think probably if you look online, the reviews may tell you the same. Hopefully, I don't know. I honestly haven't looked at it very closely, but I would try it. I think you'd be all right. Muck Road 650. Okay, cool. 350 camper cam, so kind of a light RV. Yeah. The calibration kit. Here's one that I kind of got mismatched. It's got 8,000 springs and more rods and jets than should be in there. But the calibration kit is super critical because what it will give you, and I don't think I didn't print a tuning chart, but if you go to my website, musclecarsolutioncarbs.com, and you look in the resources tab, you will find the calibration kit. I think the calibration kits are in there. If not, the complete tuning guide is in there. You can look at that. And then maybe I didn't. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it, but maybe I'll do that. I'll put them individually. But there's a lot of resources on there, PDFs of stuff that I've collected and made over the years that you may find useful. But when you buy that calibration kit, it will have every combination that's in the tuning chart. Again, I did a tuning chart video is a really good video to help you really quickly understand how to read that chart. And once it's explained to you once, you're an expert with it. It's so easy to read that thing, but that's what you use to make all those adjustments. Every tuning kit has all the different color springs in it. So it's got the blue, yellow, orange, pink, and silver springs in it. So it gives you every option there. And then a lot of rods and jets that are within those placements on the tuning chart. Really, really, because I've got a ton of rods and jets laying around, I don't typically buy calibration kits unless somebody has bought a carburetor. I'll always suggest them buy the calibration kit, and then I will help you tune it from there. But having that calibration kit is a really, really, very important piece to have because it just allows you to make all those decisions yourself. See if you can actually see that thing. It's all washed out on my screen, so kind of weird. But anyway, I hope that made sense to you. I tell you to go watch another video, but that one on calibration, how to read the tuning chart and calibration kits is really good because I'm just passing on all that knowledge, so you don't have to rely on coming back to me to watch a video. You've got the tuning chart. You kind of know, based on some of the videos I've done, you can figure out how to kind of tune through it yourself. It sounds harder than what it is, but it's really not. So I'm not one of the, I guess I'm not looking to do this, full time and get 1 million, subscribers and, 1 million views a month or whatever the cool thing is today. I have no idea. I want to pass along the information to make it easier for folks. And, once you get it, you get it. There's no reason to come back, which is kind of stupid, I guess. I spent all this time doing it. I should, try to turn this into getting more subscribers and all that, but I don't really pay attention to it. So Let me get back in here to the comments. GM Holly Carb Restorations. There are a couple really good Facebook groups that I've seen on Holly carburetor stuff. And there are a couple really good folks in there that I've either talked to in person, whether it's at Carlisle, Swap Meet, or running into them at different shows. Louisville NSRA is one where I've talked to a few of those guys where they're a Holly rebuild, service, but I can't off the top of my head think of any of them. If I think about it as we're going through the live stream, I'll just spit it out. No one's gonna know what the heck I'm talking about. But if you're still watching, you will. But but there's a couple on there. That's what I would do. I do Hollies as well, but I just don't. I haven't done a lot of videos on them because, well, two reasons. One, again, I don't have two vehicles running to where I can do one that will use a smaller carburetor and then one that will use a very large carburetor. 850, 950 is the kind of the range that I'm looking at putting on the Chevelle when it's done. And there's a million Holly videos out there, and it didn't really seem like making a lot of sense doing a lot of duplicates, but I will be doing a lot more 4150 style carburetors this year, just simply because the VRS is out by Edelbrock, and we're certainly going to spend a lot of time tuning it. This is my 650 for the GMC truck. It's going to be a little bit overkill, but we will definitely do some tuning videos on it. The good thing is we're not going to really spend a lot of time on how to go through all the bleeds and all the emulsions in the metering block, which I don't think I pulled out of another. I guess I didn't. But we're not going to talk too much about changing those because those are very complicated, and it's not an easy process, and it's more dyno related than anything else. And capturing O2 on both sides of the exhaust. If you've got a dyno that's got EGT in each hole, that's a big one to help you really dial these in. So when you talk about the air bleeds and the emulsions that are in the carburetor, most of the time for a street carburetor, you're not going to need to touch those. But we are going to do some jet videos. We are going to do some more power valve videos. I did a video on that a month or so ago on just kind of the basics of power valve stuff. And we are definitely going to be doing a lot more of that. So there is going to be a lot more Holly or 4150 style tuning videos coming this year. No doubt about it. It's probably going to be, off the top of my head, I think there's probably 5 or 6 videos that I've got planned that's kind of in between doing some on-engine Edelbrock stuff and then the 4150 style carburetor. So it's probably too much information for you, but I figured I'd give it all to you. Let's see. All right, I think we caught up to all the questions. If I missed one, just tell me to open my eyes and read back further. Another quick one on future videos. I talked to Billy Godbold last week. I wanted to have that video out a couple months ago, actually. We talked at PRI quite extensively. It was kind of cool to catch up to him and see how he's doing these days. But he wants to wait until his book hits the market, and I fully support that. I want to help talk about that when it gets there. So it looks like the book should be done at the printers and ready to ship. You can pre-order them now, but it looks like it's be ready to ship kind of mid-May. So I need to talk to him again probably next week or the week after, and then we will do the video on that. That will be a very, very good video. If you remember, at the very first of the year, we did a video on why flat tappet cams fail. And then a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, maybe we did the video on hardness and heat treating in a camshaft. Billy is the expert. He's a metallurgical expert. He's obviously he is the guy when it comes to lobe profiles. If Billy did your cam and designed the lobes for your cam, I would put his camshaft up against anybody in the entire world That's how dominant that guy is. It's the reason why Comp has made such good power. It's the reason why there are still professional race teams that use Comp design stuff by Billy, because he's a very, very, very sharp guy. And there's nobody in the market that is making camshafts today that does it any better than Billy does. So I want to have that conversation with him. We'll talk a lot about flat tapicam stuff. We will talk a lot about maybe a little bit about selecting a camshaft. He's really, oddly enough, he's really not that good at that. He's just really good at you telling him, hey, I'm trying to make power here, and I'm trying to get this out of whatever engine it is, and he will whip up whatever lobe design is needed to make sure that you get there, you make power, and you keep the valve train under control. And that's where that guy makes all of his money. Anybody with a piece of paper and a pencil can draw a lobe and figure out, okay, I want the ramp to come in at this, I want the spring to compress at this rate, and I want the closing event to happen here. All that stuff is not complicated. There's hundreds of white papers and stuff like that online where you can read about that stuff. And I'm not knocking any of the guys that are out there that are expert cam guys that sell a ton of LS camshafts or big block Chevy camshafts, but they've not spent any of the time that he has done on research and development. Kind of like the interview we did with Lake Speed here a month or so ago. Nobody's done more dyno work on engine oil than Lake has done. No one has more dyno and engine work on the Spintron and on the dyno and at the track than Billy Godbold has. And that's going to be a really fun interview. So really looking forward to that one. So anyway, that one's coming soon. Looks like we're caught up mostly. Tonight's a Yingling night, by the way, just in case. So shout out to everybody that's bought me a beer. This one's for you. Wet my whistle there. So anyway, Billy, the Billy interview is coming. So anyway, I want to talk about that. Just look at the comments again real quick here. Don't have anything else. So if you've got any questions, please leave them over there, because that's kind of the reason why I like doing these is because I can talk about questions on the go and live here, and sometimes that's easier than you typing out, leaving me a message, and YouTube may or may not give me the notification that you left something and come back to you hours or a day or two later or whatever. I try to get to them all really quickly. But here's a question that I had today. I was at the car show in Horn Lake for the kids at the CTC. I don't know what it's called. County, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like I said, I threw some pictures on Instagram, and I'll leave them on Facebook. But they're all high school kids, and I was kind of wandering around, and I saw a few friends there, so we're kind of hanging out, talking, and having a few laughs and dodging some raindrops. But I had a guy that had a 360 AMC, very cool engine. Can't remember what it was in. It was in a old Jeep, something or other, I think, Comanche or Commander. I'm not very good with those years of vehicles. But 650 double pumper, on 360, little bit overkill, but that's okay. Can't really fault that. I think he drives it fairly spirited, even though it's a four-wheel drive truck. It's probably a little bit too much carburetor. We talked a little bit about that, but here was his problem. At around 2,500, I'm going kind of by memory here, but around 2,500 to 3,000, he was having a little bit of a stumble, and he's having a hard time getting rid of it. And of course, first thing is, I keep adjusting the idle mixture screws, and I've tried it every way, and I can screw them all the way out almost, and it doesn't have any effect on the idle. So we went through that conversation, which we've had here on the channel 100 times, I guess. Once you hit about 1,000 RPM, the idle mixture screws become redundant. They are not part of the system. They are not providing fuel anymore. The power valve, the main metering circuit, the transfer slot all take over at that point once you get north of 1,000 RPM. It's a rough ballpark, but it's a good sticking number to stick to. So we talked about how to fix that. He was going to add a little bit more timing. He was going to close the speed down a little bit and see if he could get it idle. He had a fairly mild cam in it, if I remember right. But that RPM kind of was a cool one because it kind of stuck out to me a little bit. When you're at that RPM range, you are kind of in between two things. You are in between the main metering circuit and the airflow getting enough speed to flow through the venturi and the booster to start the main metering circuit of taking over to feed all the fuel. What you're looking for at that point is a enrichment system. On the Edelbrock carburetor, it's the step-up springs. That's your power valve in an Edelbrock carburetor. The step-up springs, I just saw a couple here. The step-up springs is the same thing. That spring will open up the rod or allow the rod to go up, and when the engine load increases and the vacuum drops, it releases the spring depending on the rating of the spring, and it will enrich the fuel system. On the Holly, it's the power valve. Kind of cool, those are right there. I didn't even know that. On the Holly, it's the power valve. So the power valve is rated in different numbers. This one is I think it's a 6.5. Yeah, it's a 6.5. So I told him, I said, have you ever been in to change the power valve? And he said, no, I don't think I ever have. I'm sure it's whatever came in the carburetor. I think it was a 670 maybe. It wasn't a 650. It was a 670, I can't remember. Anyway, I said it's probably the 6.5. I said, you can do this one of two ways. What I would do is I would leave the jetting alone, leave it as it is, get the timing set right, get the idle mixture screws set, get your idle speed taken care of, and then let's change the power valve. Instead of the 6.5, I want you to go up to the 8.5. Now, why would you go to a bigger power valve? Does that mean you're getting a bigger shot of fuel? No, you're just changing the time in which that opens. If that engine idles at 15 inches of vacuum, okay, and as you're rolling down the road, the vacuum's going to naturally drop. So let's say you're cruising down the road at 25, 30 miles per hour. You're at 15, 16, 1700, somewhere in there. I guess depending on what gear you're in the transmission. The vacuum in the engine hasn't released this. It is still closed completely. I did grab some power valve pieces. Remember in the power valve video we talked about that? That when it is fully compressed, that valve is closed. And then when the spring releases, it opens up and allows fuel to flow through there and get into the engine. It's the enrichment circuit. It's a power valve enrichment circuit. Because he's at 6.5, that's the engine vacuum is going to have to drop all the way down till it releases that spring and allows the fuel to start flowing through there. When you go to an 8.5, which is really the next biggest size that I would go to. I know they make a 7.5, but there's no reason for it. Get a little bit more of a dramatic result. You're going to see that vacuum sooner than you will the 6.5. Make sense? So if you're at 15 and then you drop to like 10 or 12 cruising, and then you really roll into it hard around that 25,000 or 2,500, 3,000 RPM range, you're going to hit that 8.5 vacuum rating well before you will hit the 6.5. The vacuum will need to continue to drop, meaning more fuel is introduced, more speed is coming in, load is getting more aggressive, the vacuum drops even further in the engine as it's demanding more fuel get into the cylinders, and you will pass the 8.5 before you pass the 6.5, meaning you will open the fuel sooner with the bigger numbered power valve. And that's what I told him to do. See if you can do that. See if it makes any difference. I said if it gets better, then you know you're on the right track. Then you know you're going to need to add fuel sooner, and then you can either start playing around with the jetting at that point, because once you get past that range, the power enrichment circuit on the power valve, you'll start to get enough airspeed going through there that the fuel will start flowing through the venturi, and you're good to go. But that's a really good one. And I said if it gets worse, then you know you're giving it too much fuel, and that's the reason why it's stumbling and hesitating. He couldn't tell me if he was seeing, black smoke out the back, whatever. But I said if you get to the 8.5 and it's gets worse, or it's got more of a hesitation, or it's sputtering and spitting, and you see a bunch of black smoke out the back, then you need to know that you need to lean it out, and then you can go from the 6.5 probably to a 5.5 power valve. I wouldn't go much less than that on a fairly mild motor, because you're going to really be into the RPM range. But I have a feeling that that's what it is. He just needs a little bit more shot of fuel at the correct time, and then the jets can take over. You can start going through the main metering circuit and all that. So I thought it was a really good tech question. We talked about power valves, but I don't know that I covered anything like that specifically, especially in that power range that he had. So just thought I'd talk about that really quick. I thought it was a really good one. So hopefully somebody got something out of that. So, no other questions, no comments, no. Don't want to yell at me about anything. Let me get out of this. Okay. I guess that begs the question, can you still hear me okay? Usually I get a few questions and little thing fell out of there. But anyway, look, the cut-up power valve is cool, and so I guess if you can hear me, let me know. But I guess there's a few of you watching, so I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Ugh. Anyway. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure you can hear me. It's cool. I appreciate their Mr. Mississippi or Mrs. Mississippi. I don't know. 66 Mercury. I can kind of dig that. If you guys haven't added me on Facebook, if you're over there, find the group and join it and drop some pictures of the stuff you guys are working on. I don't get to see that much unless you got an Instagram page, which is cool, but it seems like with Facebook that interaction's cooler. You can drop pictures and talk about all things you're working on. So anyway, I started that up maybe month or so ago because quite a few folks asked for it and voted that they wanted me to open a Facebook page, and I haven't really talked too much about it. But yeah, if you want to jump over there and drop some pictures of what you're working on, stokes me out. I love seeing it because I don't get to see it that much. So how's the truck coming along? Well, unfortunately we talked about that just a few minutes ago, sort of, but had a TV cable issue. I had to end up pulling the transmission back out for. Unfortunately, it wasn't the transmission's fault. It was my fault. So I can't blame anybody else but me on that one. And I've been gone for a week or so I haven't really had a chance to work on it. I am hoping that tomorrow, because I'm not putting a video out tomorrow, that I've got a full day here to work on it. And hopefully I can get the TV cable back in, get the dipstick back in, get all that hooked up, the converters in and flex plates all hooked up. That's all that's done. And then I've got the exhaust to finish up and a little bit of wiring. I mean, literally, if I had a good solid day of knocking some tasks out, I could get that truck fired up, but I don't think it's going to be this weekend. I know I'm going to run into something that's going to foul me up, and I'm working on that thing in my driveway, so it's not like I got a lift to work on. And like most of you all, most everybody doesn't have a lift, and I don't have a really big shop that I work out of. And I know maybe because you haven't seen it, I've got a 2-car garage that I work out of, and I couldn't put a lift in here if I tried. Looking at the ceilings, they're probably 10-foot ceilings, and I don't want one of those short half lifts. I'll wait till I build an actual shop out back before I get there. So anyway, I'm hoping to get the truck. Ooh, keep your fingers crossed, because I'd like to have it done by next weekend. Because again, I got another car show coming up that I would like to be at. Clay Milliken, good friend, lives up in Drummond's, Tennessee, not too far away from here, about an hour, I guess, from here. He's got a fundraiser on the 12th. Where's my phone at? The 12th or 13th. Hang on. Okay, so it is the May 13th. He's got, so that's 2 weeks away. Whew, well, I guess I better get it done by next week. He's got a car show fundraiser for the Drummond's Humane Society, I think it is, or some animal shelter up there. And Clay's a big dog guy, and I've got two idiots that love me dearly, but they're absolutely insane. And I want to go up there and support them. I would like to take the truck up there, so I'm kind of hoping to have it done for that. Keep your fingers crossed. I don't know. If I don't run into any more issues, maybe, but we'll see. Just have a bunch of little stuff, unfortunately, and then things that I broke and screwed up. So, well, there's been a hindrance that you had, especially here in the Mid-South. I mean, we'll have a couple of days of just really beautiful, over the last couple months, those 75, 80 degree days, and it's absolutely beautiful. You can get a ton of stuff done, and then it'll rain overnight, and it'll be 60 the next day and rainy. It's like, okay, but I got to be here, and I got to have time to do it to to go work on it. But, yeah, the rain's been crazy this year, but I guess it's better than living in Michigan or Wisconsin or somewhere where it's, 40 or 50 every day or colder, I guess. So I'll take the rainy, crappy weather. Clutch adjust with your center force clutch. No, that's a really good question. So the center force clutch that I like to use, and I don't know if I'm going to use it on the Chevelle with the T56, but I absolutely love that center force diad clutch. It is literally, and these clutches are, some of them are rated to, I guess I don't have that box over there. I was going to go grab that clutch, but some of those clutches are rated to 1,300 foot-pounds of torque. And they feel like you're pushing in a clutch on a 2005 2-liter Corolla 5-speed. It's just butter smooth, gentle. I mean, your 80, 90-pound wife could do that all day long and not worry about it. That Diad is such a trick, quiet clutch that handles a ton of horsepower. It's a twin disc clutch. I fell in love with that thing maybe 10 years ago when it first came out, and I absolutely love them. However, Will Beatty, the engineer that used to work for Center Force, is now working for McLeod, and he's asked me to use their RST clutch or one of their versions of their twin disc clutch, and I'll probably give it a shot and see how I like it and give him some feedback. Will's a really, really good dude, and I don't have any issue with trying out, buying something new and trying it out. But yeah, typically on the clutch though, once you get the depth measured and you get everything aligned up with the bell housing, get the depth in there right. I use a hydraulic master on it anyway, so I don't use a mechanical linkage on any clutch. I guess that started maybe, oh God, this has been probably close to 20 years ago now. 2003 or 4 maybe, when I put that last, I'm trying to remember what it was, but I use a hydraulic clutch for everything. It's just, everybody gets worried about that and they want the mechanical linkage because they feel like they can feel it better and easier. I don't disagree with that. I think you can feel a bit more through the clutch pedal, but banging gears through a hydraulic clutch and a really nice twin disc setup on a 7, 8, 900 horsepower engine will just literally light your hair on fire. It's an unbelievable feeling. It's why I'm kind of addicted to manual transmissions, even though they're slower and all that. But I haven't had a drag car in quite a few years, though. We'll talk about that later at some point. But yeah, I'm still a manual transmission fan. I guess probably always will be. But the Tremec is my choice right now, the T56. But there's a couple others I want to try out down the road. But that TKX is kind of intriguing. But yeah, I always use a hydraulic clutch. Using the hoist to work, shops closed mid-May. Yeah. Shops closing mid-May. I don't like to hear that. Hopefully that's not a sign of the times type of thing, and it's more of a something that is okay, but never know these days. So yeah, if I had a hoist at work, or if I had a hoist, period, I would be, all over that for sure. Let me think. What else did I have to talk about? There was one other tech deal that we were going to cover, and now I don't remember. Oh, I remember what it was. Duh, because it's the reason why I have the cutouts here. All right. So if you'll remember, when we did the cutaway on these, and then when we did this one here, where we milled down the front of the carburetor. Okay. So the question was, should I have, and it was an Edelbrock carburetor, so that makes it nice. And I know you won't be able to see this, but the question was, to me, is my car runs better, idles better, gets cruising and up and down the road better when I have the transfer slot, which is, kind of see here. Yeah, I guess you can see it. It's those slots right there. That hole below it is where the idle mixture screw goes. I'm trying to look, see if you can see that. So those are the transfer slots. But the guy told me, or the person I was talking to said, my car runs better when I have a little bit of that transfer slot. I guess you can see that. When I have a little bit of that transfer slot exposed at idle. But every video that you've done has said to make sure that the transfer slots aren't exposed at all. Am I causing an issue? And there's two questions that I would have with that if that was the same question that you'd ask me. What's the cam profile? Because that's going to tell me how much fuel is being demanded by the engine, and what are you using the vehicle for? He had a really interesting answer for this one, and I guess it's interesting when you talk to people, because you just don't know what they're going to say. It's usually, yeah, I got a small cam in it. It's my, it's my cruiser on the weekend type of deal, turbo 350 transmission, or a C6 with a 1-to-1 final drive, just a cruiser, have fun, whatever. His was the exact opposite. It's his drag week car. And I said, okay, so let's talk about cam profile. 238 on intake, 246 or 7 or something like that on the exhaust. I can't remember. But he was using an Edelbrock 800 to go from where he was at to the next drag strip. When he got to the drag strip, he would swap out, put on a very large double pumper. I think he's using a 950, but because the cam profile was so aggressive, that he was using the 800 just to give it a little bit more street ability to drive it down the road. And yeah, if it idles better because the cam is so aggressive, and you don't have a carburetor that allows you to add more air to the system where you can keep the idle RPM down a little bit more, then if that's what you've got to do, the answer to that question is absolutely yes. Now, in that case for me, and we haven't talked about this because I don't like talking about it and I don't like permanently modifying these carburetors. You've seen me do a number of videos on that where we talked about modifying the weighted air valve. We talked about modifying the nozzle, the squirter on the Edelbrock carburetor to open it up to get a quicker shot of fuel. But I'm not a big fan of permanently modifying a carburetor. But you can drill the throttle plates on the primary side to add a little bit more air. That way it will take the fuel that it needs to keep the thing idling. You can get the idle speed down a little bit and help it idle around. In his case, I said you could do one of two ways. You could leave it alone, keep cruising it, and fine. And then when you get to the track, you can swap out carburetors to, your more race carburetor and do that, or you could open that up. The other thing is, and what I love about this new VRS, and we talked about this in the video on the VRS carburetor, these ports right here, or these screws right here, allow you to add air at idle. If you look at some of the quick fuel carburetors, the Holley has it right here in the center. You take the air cleaner out, you take the stud out, and then you can screw it up or down, whatever, and you can add fuel or add air to it or take it away. The Edelbrock one's kind of tricked because they added it on the sides of the carburetor. There's one on both sides, okay? And then now you can add more air here instead of drilling out the the throttle plates. Very trick little deal on the Edelbrock carburetor. Absolutely stoked about that thing for a street guy, and looking forward to that on the Chevelle because it'll be certainly a more rowdy camshaft. But that was the answer to that. Yes, if you absolutely have to, then do it. There's no reason not to. The reason why I tell you not to on a street car is because typically you want to idle nice. You want to idle at that, in park on an automatic transmission, 700-800, and then depending on the cam profile, put it into gear, drop about 100 RPM, so it idles 600, 650, maybe at the most. It allows the engine to kind of do what it needs to do, and then you stay out of that transfer slot, because if you remember correctly, so you can see that the transfer slot is another enrichment system for fuel. You got the idle mixture that handles all of your duty at idle. I guess you can kind of see that little dot in there. Idle mixture handles that, and then once you step on the throttle and you start to open it up off of idle, you expose the transfer slot, and that's what starts to give you that additional shot of fuel that you need to get the car moving. Then other circuits take over. On the Edelbrock, you've got the step-up spring, which will release and add more fuel through the jet. In the Holley, or the 4150 style carburetor, the power valve release, like we talked about in that example earlier, power valve release will give you the fuel that you need until enough airspeed is going into the carburetor to open up and start using the main metering circuit. So the answer to that's yes. It's not optimal, but it can be done. So I thought those were two really good questions, and I guess I haven't really talked about the transfer slot one ever before. I usually have stuck to let's not keep that thing exposed, but really boils down to the camshaft profile. And if you need a little bit more air going through there, sometimes you have to crack the throttle open a little bit, and that means adjusting the idle RPM at a higher speed to open up the throttle plates to get more air in there. Again, the VRS carburetor allows you to do it in a really trick way. In that way, you can either keep the speed up a little bit by adding on the idle RPM, or drill a couple of holes. But again, I hate doing that because as soon as you drill the bottom of that carburetor, these valves are not replaceable. Edelbrock doesn't sell these as a service repair item. You can't call them up and say, send me this 2-281 throttle plate. I screwed one up. The hardware staked in there to keep it from coming out, dropping down the engine. That would suck. And they're just not made to be serviced. So once you modify that and drill it, it's done, unless you can get a little tricky with some epoxy and some time, and hopefully it'll seal up. So anyway, I thought it was a good question. So hopefully that gave somebody some little bit of info and different way of thinking about it. Slant Daily Garage. We just talked about that dude. We talked at the beginning of the live stream. Yes, it works on Magic. Absolutely. I'm telling y'all, if you do not go over and follow Shane's channel at Slant Daily Garage, you're missing out. He is a brilliant guy. Really good engineer. same type of stuff. You could ask him anything you want on his channel. He's just did a video on degreeing in a camshaft. Very nice, simple, easy way to do it. We've talked about upgrading his camera gear, so he should have some cool views now that he's got two hands to work with instead of holding the phone in one hand and trying to monkey with stuff. So I'm super stoked about his channel. You guys are going to love it. Please go over and check him out. Give him a follow. Watch a bunch of his videos. And he's a funny guy. And he's a Mopar guy. So I'm certainly all about adding more Mopar content onto here. So go check out Shane. Thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate it. I guess I'll talk to you next week sometime, and I'll buy you lunch or something. Because I think you bought lunch when we went to the track last time. So I owe you for everything. I appreciate that, man. You guys will love him. He's a pretty good dude. Like I say, you're not gonna stump him. Shane, remind me, it's the AHRA tech deal on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Is it AHRA or IHRA? I can't remember, but he'll respond there in the chat. I'll leave it in the description down below because that's a really good tech one. If you want some really, really, really in-depth tech questions where you can kind of fire some stuff at them, that's a really cool one to follow. You'll get some really, really good info out of that. So, that's sharing a little bit about your technical background. Proficient in the field. Woo! I've been in the automotive aftermarket for, man, I shouldn't really say this because then it's going to tell you how old I am. I graduated high school in 1987. Very soon after that, I went to, started working at a warehouse in Kansas City that sold, carburetors and wheels and tires and some really rudimentary truck accessories, and that's how I got introduced to the aftermarket. I was a racer at the time. I had a 73 Vega. My dad had a Brogy Roadster and a 55 Chevy that we drag raced through Division 5, and I just started learning it. And back then, it was more trial and error. It was, okay, we did a lot of Q-Jet stuff at the time, and you had to kind of guess a little bit on things because you didn't have AFR gauge, you didn't have data logging, you didn't have EGT sensors, you didn't have all the information that we have today, so a lot of it was trial and error. Well, I've grown up in the industry other than a few years in the military, and I've been around a lot of really smart guys like Shane at Slant Daily Garage that have taught me a lot of things, and then I've learned to apply those things in my projects. So that's been kind of the cool thing, has been, I don't feel like, and I guess the people that I've worked with throughout the years have probably attest to this, I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. And I say that jokingly because, like I said, they'll agree to it that I don't work at all. But I've been around hot rods and race car parts and, spent time around some pretty big, racers and industry names and got to learn about what they do and see how they, solve problems and build cylinder heads and intake manifolds, and had a really, really, really good mentor with the Edelbrock carburetor. Bless his soul, we lost him in January. His name was Smitty Smith. I met Smitty probably 20 some years ago, 25 years ago, something like that. And Smitty was the Edelbrock carburetor guru. He started at Edelbrock right after that, but he was a 30-year Edelbrock employee when he passed away. And I got to know him by talking to him on the tech line. I got to know him seeing him at events throughout the year, and then seeing him at SEMA every year, PRI every year, and I just learned a lot from him. And a lot of it was asking him a really stupid question, and Smitty was a really good mentor in the fact that he sometimes would give you the exact answer depending on how irritated he was with the question, and other times he'd go, I don't know, why don't you go home and try it out and tell me how it worked? And yeah, I think you're on the right track with that thought. And so sometimes that's what I would do, and that's kind of what gave me the idea with a lot of this stuff. Is it's not that I had a lot of technical ability. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a I'm not a product developer. I'm not some really super technical guy. I've just spent 30 years with that carburetor, and I know how to tune it really well. I know how to tune Hollies really well. I can still probably tune a Quadrajet really well, but with all the modern diagnostics and tools that we have, dude, I can do those easy, no problem now, because now I've got all the tools to tell me, if I'm making the right move or not. So that's really what it is. I've been in the industry for, so many years. I've worked for, manufacturers, warehouses, distributors, rep agencies, and I've had, a really long run at it. And I hope to have another 10 or 15 years in the industry and, getting to hang out with really cool people like Shane at Slant Daily Garage. And the more smarter people you hang around with, the more you learn, even if it's just by osmosis a little bit. So, that's where it all came from. Is just I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've just had an opportunity to try a lot of things, make a lot of stupid mistakes, and then find some really simple ways to make things work. And one thing that I am very good at, I think, is explaining things, and that's why, we did all these cutaways of all the carburetors, because it's a very easy way to give you a visual on the things that I've learned over the years and how the carburetors work, and hopefully it helps you learn something so you can go out and be that next guy that knows that carburetor really well, or knows the cams or profiles on lobes and all that, how to tune Hollies or whatever. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. Going to buy a quality mechanical fuel pump. On buying a mechanical fuel pump, AHRA, John. Shane just responded a minute ago. 7 p.m. Wednesdays, AHRA channel. That's a really good tech talk. They're usually on for a couple hours, which is kind of cool. I sit there and listen to it when I'm here in the garage or whatever. But that's a really, really cool one. If you want to go back and take a listen to any of the past ones they've done, it'll tell you that you need to be on there Wednesday nights for that, because they talk about everything. They just throw an answer or a question into the chat, and they'll usually respond to it. If it's a really cool question, they may be on it for quite a long time, and you'll get a lot of Shane's knowledge. And sorry, I can't remember the other guy on that channel, but anyway, that's a really, really good one. Which would I choose mechanical fuel pump wise? I don't know. Quite honestly, either one's fine. The pump isn't the one that I'm concerned about. They're both, I think, fairly good quality. I don't know where the Holly is made. The Edelbrock pump, I think, is still assembled and made in the U.S. I don't remember, so I can't really tell you, but I don't think that matters so much. The key side to that, John, is in the regulator. You've got to run a regulator. If you don't run a regulator with a carburetor, you can have that Holly mechanical pump, and it can, say that it's rated at 6.5 or 7 psi, but it just all depends on how it was put together. And there's too many variables in that system. And even if it was in there perfectly at 6.5 psi, and that's exactly what the pump delivered, no matter if it was Edelbrock or Holly, you don't have any adjustability at that point. The regulator will give you that ability to adjust the fuel at that point. So we've talked about that quite a bit. There are some times where I'll always start with 6 psi on the Edelbrock carburetor, but there are times where I'll dial that back to 5.5, 5. And if it adversely affects it, then I know to go back up. But there are plenty of times where we've overfueled something because it needed a little less fuel, and sometimes a little less pressure is a good thing. The regulator gives you the ability to do that. It's the key part to that system, if you can see that. So carburetor, regulator, 10 or 40 micron filter, pump if you're doing a mechanical pump, 100 micron filter, fuel tank. That regulator is the big part. Sure, the fuel pump is important because it's going to give you the dependability, the longevity. Most of them run, or have enough gallons per hour that you're not going to outrun the thing. So that's usually not a consideration. I think they're usually around 100, 110, 130, something like that. I can't remember, but it's the regulator that's the key part to that. So pick your poison there, and then get a good regulator. Again, you all know how much I feel about the Aeromotive product. I've been very, very vocal on how much I love that product. It's a little bit more money, but you can buy a fairly decent regulator. I think Edelbrock's got one for around 100. You can buy that cheaper Holly. I've got one on the GMC for 45, 50 bucks, something like that. So they're not going to break the bank, but it gives you another adjustment point. Super, super critical. Dallas Brown, sorry, that's Shane's co-host on the AHRA Tech Talk deal. You guys will love that, promise me. I will be there on Wednesday, throwing Shane some jeers and some crazy comments, potentially. But you'll see me there. I try to make it every single Wednesday to watch that. You guys will love that. So, John, I hope that answered your question. Yeah, doesn't matter on the pump. Pick whichever flavor you want, but get a good regulator for it. All right. I think that's all I had. How long have we been on? It's been like 10 hours or something stupid. I always tell myself I'm going to be on for an hour, and then it's like an hour and 30 minutes later. Why can't I see that? OBS is a software I use for that, and it's not very good sometimes to tell me exactly how long we've been on, so I don't know. Oh well, I guess it doesn't matter. So anyway, I hope that answered your question there, John. So that was really all I had. What else you guys want to talk about? Hopefully those two little tech deals on the transfer slots and power valve sizing, and when to go to a larger number power valve is a good thing. Hopefully that helped out somebody figure that out. And again, that's probably my fault. I need to, like I say, put an outline together when I do those tech videos, because I forget stuff all the time, and I don't cover every detail that I probably should. That's a disservice to you, because then you're watching two different videos and instead of just one really long one. I hate doing that to people. So, but then again, I won't do another. I won't put an outline together. I know that my time's minimal and I'm lazy. So, hour and 10 minutes. Okay, well, cool. I guess it's not too long. So, any other questions? What other questions do you guys have? We could talk about the Edelbrock VRS. Again, that one's going to be a good one. That one's probably, if I get the truck running by next weekend, which keep your fingers crossed, I'm going to try like hell to do that, then probably in a couple of months, because I've got 2 tuning videos I want to do with the Edelbrock carburetor, how to set timing and how timing can negatively affect how the carburetor runs, because we talk about that all the time. When you guys leave comments that you've got what other combination, whatever, usually the first question that I always ask is, what's your timing set at? And I get half the time people are like, well, I didn't ask you about my timing, I'm asking you about a carburetor question. I dig it, but I got to know what your timing's set at, because if it's at 6 degrees before top dead center and it's a small block Chevy, we got some problems. You need to start adding some timing to it, and it'll start curing some of the issues that you're having. So I get it. I know that people get tired of me doing that. I don't do it to monkey with you. I just do it because I want to help you get to the right answer and find the right solution as quick as possible. So, all right, let's see if you guys got any questions. Nothing else, huh? Well, I guess that covered it. I was going to talk about boosters, but I don't remember what in the hell it was. If you remember, I still like that, doing that cutaway, and how that booster fits down into the well. It's where it draws the fuel from, up into the main metering circuit, and you get airspeed that goes through there that drops the vacuum and creates a suction, essentially, underneath that booster that draws the fuel, that draws it through the main metering circuit. I just love the simplicity in that. It's such a cool cutaway. And yeah, I had to destroy a very nasty, I guess you can't really see that, but that thing was ethanol eaten up and destroyed, so it didn't really lose a good carburetor. But I absolutely love having those cutaways. I need to clean them up a little bit, but knowing where that booster is within the Venturi is kind of a really cool deal to look at. It's just a different way of seeing it. So I just love these cutaways. They were such a cool deal to do. It just tells you a lot more information about what you're working on. So they sit fairly high up in there. Most of the time people think that they would be closer to this transition point where it opens up into a bigger diameter. You can kind of see that little ridge right there. It's a larger area down here than is here, but that booster was designed to put it in the right spot so it draws the fuel as it's needed depending on the airspeed and the size of it. I don't have a 500 booster, but if you look down in there, that booster is much bigger. It's because it doesn't need the same surface area, or doesn't need the same amount of pull to meter the fuel out there. You're not metering the same amount of fuel. So, very cool deal. All right. Well, I guess that's it. No other questions. So, I appreciate y'all watching. I guess we only had one beer tonight, so my wife will be happy that I didn't have, 10 and I'm chasing the dogs in the backyard in the rain for the next hour. So anyway, that's the plan. I should have another video next week. Again, make sure you check out Shane at Slant Daily. You'll have fun, trust me. Go check his channel out, give him a like, watch a ton of his videos, help him get his watch time up so he can put out some more content, and pay for some camera gear that I've talked him into buying. So you'll have a good time with that one. So for sure check him out. And yeah, hopefully I get a lot done tomorrow and next week, and get the truck fired up. I may do that live if it's early enough at night and it's still light outside and I don't drive the neighbors insane. The exhaust will be on the truck, so it shouldn't be too bad. But I'll do the fire up of the truck live if you guys want to watch that, of me rushing around like a maniac, making sure that I start adding transmission fluid before I burn the pump out of the thing and destroy it and everything else on the inside. And yeah, it should be fun. So we'll see what happens. I would like to do that. I haven't never done that before, obviously. It'd be kind of cool to do. So, and then yeah, we've got some really cool stuff coming on the Edelbrock tuning, and then on that 4150 style on the VRS, we'll do some really cool tuning videos there, and a lot of really cool stuff coming. Just time to get there has been the tough one. So, well, cool. We're late enough in the video that YouTube won't get mad at me for that. So, but anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging out for an hour and 15 or 20 minutes, whatever it is, and asking some questions. I always dig that. I love having that time together where we can kind of do this, and I don't do it near enough, but I thought about doing once a week, maybe on a Saturday, and then Sunday with the regular videos I put out. But I don't know, if you want me to see me do that, drop me a note somewhere and let me know if you'd hang out for an hour to kind of shoot the breeze and ask some carburetor questions, or anything that we've covered. So anyway, I think that will yeah, I guess that'll cover it. Again, thank you guys for watching. Go check out Shane's channel. Like I said, you'll have a lot of fun there. And obviously the Riley's Rebuilds Girls, I guess that's kind of blown out. You can't see that. I got to get a better camera, so I got to upgrade my junk too. So maybe I'll try to get another webcam here in the next couple weeks, and maybe we'll do another one of these. I guess I'd have to use that cam or my phone, I guess, if we do a live stream firing up the truck. So anyway, we'll see. But cool. I guess I appreciate you guys hanging out for a little bit of time, and we will see you not tomorrow, but May the 6th or 7th for the next video. So cool. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good rest of your evening. We'll see you then.